Welcome to the video, guys. You'll never guess what. I was right in relation to the EU wanting more money from us to cover their bailouts due to the coronavirus situation that has been going on for a couple of months now. I don't know how many times I've mentioned it in a video or done a video about the subject that the Ramonas obviously claim were lies. Well, it seems overnight that information has come out and been elaborated on further this morning. First, we'll take a look at this Politico article which actually broke the story as far as I can tell. It headlines, UK and EU clash over British share of coronavirus fund. London says it should not have to pay into or benefit from changes to budget agreed after the UK left the EU. Never mind should not have to pay, the response from London should be, we are not paying, we don't have to pay, and we will never pay it. We left on the 31st of January, this all happened afterwards, and some of it won't even come in force until 2021, so we will actually be fully out of it and away from the transition period by then, meaning we shouldn't have to pay a single penny of this 300 odd million that they want from us to top up the coronavirus fund. London and Brussels are embroiled in a new Brexit row over up to 300 million in UK contributions to the EU's emergency coronavirus fund. British officials have questioned the size of the UK's contribution to the 3 billion emergency support instrument set up to help member countries respond to the pandemic. They argue that under the terms of last year's withdrawal agreement, the UK should not be liable to pay for major changes to the EU budget introduced after Brexit took place. Under the terms of the transition period, the UK, while not having a say in EU decision-making, must continue to pay to the budget for 2020, and also retains the benefits of EU membership. However, British officials argue that around 2/3 of what the EU is asking the UK to pay into the coronavirus fund falls outside of the scope of what was agreed in the Brexit deal, which to me just shows that the EU are trying to milk us for as much as they can, while they still have some power over us and we don't have a say during the transition period. It is very possible that they make us pay this using the European courts, but we'll have to wait and see. My hope is Boris tells them to stick it up their arse. It continues though, they argue that, meaning the UK government, under the terms of last year's withdrawal agreement, the UK should not be liable to pay for major changes to the EU budget introduced after Brexit took place, which is kind of obvious and is not a case of should not be. The response from the UK government should be, we are not paying it, end of story. Officials raised the issue at last month's meeting of the Specialised Committee on Financial Provisions, one of the joint UK-EU committees tasked with implementing the terms of a Brexit deal. So if this was all raised last month, it amazes me that we're only hearing about it now. What is actually going on with this? Why do we hear about things a month later that is relating to us paying the EU? Because it's not Boris Johnson, the UK government, or anyone else that pays this, it's us, the taxpayer. The sum under dispute is hard to calculate precisely, as it is made up of several funding commitments, but amounts to between 200 and 300 million euros, UK officials estimate, which, if you ask me, is 2 to 300 million too much, because we shouldn't be paying them a single penny. The British position is that the UK should not be liable to pay any commitments that stem from post-Brexit changes to the EU's multi-annual financial framework, or the MFF, and nor should it benefit from such funding, which I would agree with. We don't want their money, they're not taking our money, end of story. Unless, of course, they want to repay us back for the countless billions they've taken off us over the years. That we will happily have back from the EU, thank you very much. About a third of the UK's overall commitment to the coronavirus fund is not under dispute, because British officials consider that it comes under previously agreed flexibilities in the MFF. So they're already entitled to 80 or 100 million or so, but they're trying to demand 300 million, the greedy bastards. Why am I not surprised by that? A spokesman for the UK Treasury said, the UK is supporting the EU's efforts to tackle coronavirus and will meet our obligations through the financial settlement, but we do not intend to go beyond what we have agreed in the withdrawal agreement, because we have now left the EU, and that should be the end of it. But of course, it's not. However, a European Commission official said the UK remains fully liable to contribute and fully eligible to benefit from the emergency support instrument. Well, we don't want it, and we are not liable to contribute to it, as you've made up these changes since we left on the 31st of January, and as I said, a lot of these things won't even come into force until we are completely gone. So, we certainly shouldn't be paying any more into it, that is for sure. The topic was discussed in the recent Specialised Committee on Financial Provisions to better clarify the position, and with a view to identify a practical approach to solve this issue, the official said, well, the practical approach to solve this issue is simple. Stop trying to take all our money. You will get what we agreed to in the withdrawal agreement, and that will be the end of it. The government needs to stick to its guns on this, like it has done in the Brexit negotiations so far. The dispute adds another layer of friction to the UK-EU relations as the fourth round of talks on the post-Brexit relationship comes to an end on Friday, which, if you've seen from my recent videos, seem to be growing great if you're the UK negotiator having a wonderful time salt mining the EU. This article finishes up though, previous rounds have failed to bridge vast gaps in the two sides' positions, and chief negotiators Michel Barnier and David Frost have traded barbed letters in recent weeks, as I've covered and mentioned a few times now. The EU insists the UK should align with its regulations to ensure a level playing field as the basis of any free trade agreement, while the UK refuses to sign up to anything that it believes would compromise its post-Brexit sovereignty, and insists that a Canada-style trade deal is possible without binding the UK to EU laws, which is kind of obvious. The level playing field is complete nonsense and unheard of in a free trade agreement. Now, we also had the Express reporting on the same story earlier on, with the headline, Brexit Fury. Brussels demands UK pay £280 million into recovery fund, even though we have left. It says here, Britain has rejected a staggering £300 million demand from Brussels to top up the European Union's emergency coronavirus fund. It has emerged. Now, the majority of the article is saying exactly the same as the last one did, so we don't need to read through that. But here it says, last April, Express.co.uk revealed an £87 million demand from the bloc after Eurocrats extended the EU Solidarity Fund to offer assistance to pandemic-stricken member states. This also means that they have to contribute their share to any EU Solidarity Fund mobilisation during that period, as the EU Solidarity Fund comes over and above the normal budget. So they're now trying to say, regardless of the budget, they want our money anyway, and we're going to have to pay it. Let's hope Boris Johnson has a way out of that, though I'm unsure if he will. The fund comes on top of the usual MMF contributions made to the bloc every month. Britain's contribution will be lowered depending on whether or not funds are applied for from the rescue package. While Britain remains in the EU single market and customs unions, taxpayers will send around £10 billion before the end of the year, which, as we all know, is £10 billion too much. And we don't care about how you qualify for this scheme, we don't want any part of it. I'm sure you will definitely agree with that. I find it rather amazing that they have the cheek to actually ask us for this and expect it, using no doubt the European Courts of Justice to try and force it upon us. It is very possible that they actually succeed, even though the government appears to be rejecting it. We all know what greedy snivelling shitweasels the EU are, so expect them to have a way of milking this out of us. Now before I go, I've started doing live streams and uploading gaming content on my second channel. If you would like to come and join me for a live stream to chat in real time, have an interest in gaming related content on YouTube, or just want to follow me over there because you are a legend, the link will be down in the video description below and as a pinned comment. I hope to see you all there. Now as always, before I go, I want to thank our PayPal, Patreon, Subscribestar and YouTube members for supporting the channel, along with everyone who watches my videos. Remember to let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Leave a like, subscribe with the notification bell and share this video as it helps the channel a lot. And I will see you all in the next one.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors, slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires. And that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going, and we are glad to be going. We're off.